Will we ever get to a point where we create like intelligent medicine, intelligent antibiotics that we're able to take, and they are able to target only the bad bacteria and not the good bacteria?
I don't think so.
No,
I don't. No,
that dream. Okay.
I don't, because it is, there are as yet hundreds, if not thousands, of undiscovered species. So, and, different strains and so on. So, and there's so much crossover. And it's not just the bacteria itself. It's also what we call the postbiotic, the metabolite. It's what the bacteria is actually making. And that can switch. And Dotsie, I guess the best example I would give is to say, everybody who is a good person, raise your left hand. Everybody who is sometimes a bad person, raise your right hand. So it's like saying we're going to kill all the bad people in the population. I mean, there are some people in the population who clearly,
right.
There's a few. Maybe they don't deserve to be here, right? They are wreaking havoc. I won't name names.
Right.
But and then there are other people who are literally, deserve sainthood. But most of us are somewhere in the middle, right? We're like, and bacteria are kind of like that too. So a lot of what we're dealing with is this concept of pathobionts rather than pathogens. So a pathogen, like Ebola, is a pathogen. There's nothing good about Ebola. You do not want, or, methicillin resistant Staph aureus, flesh eating bacteria. These are bad dudes. But symbionts are bacteria that live very peacefully with us and sometimes even contribute to our health. So what we're seeing a lot of the time, it's not that we are invaded by pathogens. It is that there is imbalance, disruption. So think of a yeast infection, a vaginal yeast infection. You take one too many antibiotics, all of a sudden you've got a creamy white discharge, you're itching, you have a yeast infection. Yeast are not the bad guys here. We have Candida in our body. It is an essential part of digestion. Candida are part of the normal flora in the vaginal microbiome. But what happens is when you kill off a lot of the healthy vaginal lactobacillus with the antibiotics, now the Candida start to overgrow. And now you have a problem. But if you approach this as, okay, I'm going to go on a scorched earth mission to destroy every yeast in the body, you're not going to end up at a very good place, because you're missing the main problem, which is the main problem is you're missing the healthy microbes. You've killed off too many of those. So the focus really, we really need to focus on repopulation. And not repopulation with a store-bought probiotic, repopulation with our own innate gut bacteria by feeding them differently. And I think, Dotsie, to sort of give you a roundabout answer to your question, we have more narrow spectrum antibiotics. Penicillin is going to be a better choice than like a cephalosporin that's more broad spectrum. But the problem is, because of increasing antibiotic resistance, because we have so overused these antibiotics, and remember, 80% of them are used in the food industry primarily to feed animals. We have such wide resistance to these, with these resistant superbugs. Our antibiotics increasingly each year are more and more potent. So we're kind of moving in the opposite direction, where they're killing off everything because there's so much resistance. But here's where I think we may be moving, which is, could we take bacteria in our gut, take them out, and then somehow like really replicate and magnify them and then put them back in our own gut bacteria in some way? And of course, one way to do that is to just eat more plant fiber. But of course, nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants the high tech, right? Nobody's like, oh, you could have a green smoothie, have a salad for lunch, eat some rice and beans. No, I want to go buy the product and take it and have it do that. So no matter, even if you borrowed a bunch of Faecalibacterium prausnitzii from your plant-eating friend and I injected it up into your colon, if you are then feeding them Cheetos and cheeseburgers, you're not going to get meaningful. You can't get away from the food. You can't get away from the fact that to have a healthy population there, you absolutely have to feed them the right food.
So that's where the consistency comes from that you talked about from James Clear's book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit. Like I have a little rule with my patients. I call it the 1-2-3 rule. 1 vegetable in the morning, 2 at lunch, 3 at dinner. I like to flip it because I like to do a green smoothie in the morning. So I just throw a bunch in there and then I'm like, okay, I'm already 5 in, I'm good. But, I remind them like it can be a carrot in your back pocket as you're walking out the door. It doesn't, it can be a handful of spinach just sort of folded into something. It doesn't have to be like an enormous salad at every meal. And we know, again, from that American Gut Project data, you're also getting credit for the nuts, the spices, the herbs, all of it.